I would like to go ahead and call the meeting to order. And I believe that the certification open meeting law requirements have been met. Thank you so much. And then we have a roll call of committee members.
Sorry, I'm on the floor, but no.
You know what, whatever end is up is
officially
great.
still
Yeah.
here.
I have a PhD to plug in this thing.
Okay, all right. So we have Nutter, and then I guess,
Lyon present.
Sergeant present, Peter here.
and Lori Severson, I think that, oh.
And Kevin Whalen is here.
Thank you, Kevin.
Kalazinski present.
Yeah, oops. Right by you.
That was my fault.
All right. That's okay. So the we'll have to practice the roll call part, well, I'm sure we'll get better.
It's all good.
Yeah, this is all good. All righty then. And then the first item on number 4 is the presentation of the joint effort marketing, the GEM grant, by our wonderful friend here,
Awesome.
Drew.
Oh, hey, that's awesome. Oh, don't apply yet. Wait till your real check comes in.
Yeah.
All
This will
right.
work.
Well, first things first, I want to thank all of you for the opportunity to be here. Especially, I want to thank Dave Carlson and Becky Gluen for, the effort and the interest to really focus on tourism and to work with the Department of Tourism on this. We have a pot of money at the Department of Tourism on an annual basis. We have $1.1 million that must be awarded. And since there's only 2 of us in the state, I want it to be awarded on my side of the state.
Yay.
So it's always an honor when I get a chance to work locally with folks. And again, it was great because we did work ahead of time. We spent a lot of time working on this application and had calls to discuss what the circumstances were that were needed in the application. The challenge to this round was that we had about almost $850,000 in requests this last round, and there was about $200,000 left in the pot.
Yeah.
So the downside of success in a grant is that we used a lot of the money. So, but I will tell you that while we had a record number of applications, this application for Trempealeau County was at the top of the list. So it scored, yes, congratulations, it scored very well. It was well written.
Good job.
I wish there would have been more money in this check, but unfortunately, when it was divided out who the winners were, the numbers had to come down a little bit, or I'd be bringing you a much bigger check. But destination marketing is truly one of my favorite programs we have at the department, because especially whether you're talking on a county level or just on a regional level, you need at least 4, you should have 4 municipalities on board as partners with this. So each letter, each endorsement from a municipality adds the potential for more money to the application to get them to the table. And it also shows that collaboration, that everybody's gonna be working together here. And there was a good discussion on that, whether it was Trempealeau County or looking at our partners, to the east of Monroe, to the south in La Crosse, to the north, and even in Buffalo and Pepin. So the discussion became, not only just the Trempealeau inventory of what can be promoted for economic development purposes, but who should be at the table, what partners can be there. So it was a great discussion, and I know this is going to lead to an even greater discussion of research and development. And then when that year 2 grant comes across, that's when it actually gets into the nuts and bolts of here's what we learned, and then it goes into that actual developmental phase, to where you start really putting pencil to paper, going, this is the message, this is who we're telling this message to, this is where they're going to come from. While tourism is sometimes defined as flowers and rainbows and sugar, it really is economic development. It's the front row of economics. We want people to come here that have never been here before, to witness why we live here, to see what the quality of life is in Trempealeau County, all the amenities, all the wonderful things we have. And when they see that, how many of you live somewhere else? And this is an easy one for you.
Yeah.
How many of you moved here from somewhere? So a lot of hands. At some point you discovered the life, the quality, the things to do. It's here. So that conversion rate from whether you're just a visitor that came here to whether you decide to live here and you become a resident. And if you live here, unless you figured out a better plan than the rest of us, you're going to have to work. So it is. So I will say this until the day I no longer do this. It is visit, live, work at its finest definition. So this fits into all aspects of really bringing those opportunities to this county. And along with that, if you look at, for anyone who may be a tourism naysayer, and again, sometimes tourism gets that, stigma that, well, it's just bringing more people here. Look at all the things we have in this county that already exist here. And if it wasn't for having outside money come in, we wouldn't be able to afford it. it wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have these wonderful businesses and these wineries and these restaurants and these places to stay. We wouldn't have that experience here unless that extra money was on top of it, making that happen. So anyway, that's a lot of what I get to work with on a regular basis. I want to thank all of you. But this is one of the coolest parts of my job, is when I show up with the big fake check, real ones in the mail. I'm from the government, trust me. Here's a check for all of you for $16,964. And what I want to ask is I want all of you in this photo. I want to get a photo with everyone in this room. Dave, Becky, I want you two holding the check. But
Yes,
I want
that'd be
everybody
great.
else in this photo. Why don't we?
Wait, put that back up, please. I was small.
Should I put it like this?
Oh, we need your face.
I do not do pictures. I do
But I want to get everybody, listen.
I don't.
I think back here is a great shot with the flags behind and the color's good. And anybody that's watching on the screen, you can pretend you're part of this as well. So here's this.
Never knew there were so many photos.
Last time we did a photo, they didn't want us that close to the window.
Oh, is that what they
I
said?
think that's why she's going. Oh, no, let's go back.
We're gonna go inside rather than
We are,
outside.
okay.
Yep, and we gotta make sure we clear a path here.
Push, that's all I'm gonna say.
Is there some cords that'll be in the way
Yeah,
here?
we're on the phone. Okay, got it. All right.
No. No.
Oh, she's not, okay. I just take them, then get out of my way.
I'm not doing it.
Okay.
Shush. I can do what I want to do. I'm over here.
Straighten out the sign, please.
Buzz, get in there. Come in the front so you can be seen.
Petrick, I don't see Petrick.
All right, can you see everybody?
No.
I don't see Petrick. There.
No.
Why are you doing this picture?
Who can't we see?
Gene,
No. I need photos. Shush.
you need to be in a picture.
Smile. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3.
Gotcha.
No. Stop it.
What?
No.
Oh
What?
my gosh.
Let me check this. I just want to make sure I got a good, nice good shot.
Oh, no, I'm just out of here.
Yeah.
Did I get it okay for you? Got everybody?
Everybody's looking, everybody's smiling.
Okay,
and I can see
good
everybody.
deal.
Good
Okay.
job.
Good job.
Excellent. Thank you for doing that,
Lori's a
Gene.
little hidden though.
Yeah.
We were trying to get her farther forward because she's like chairman of the committee.
I don't know, you're a little hidden. Well, let's see here. Yeah, you're hidden.
Gotta keep that gap.
Fabulous.
I think we're gonna do this again.
Good job, everybody.
You get to go up front, Lori. We gotta
I think
get you
we're
in
gonna do this
front.
one more time.
Oh, what did I do?
There's
Oh,
one,
we just gotta get everybody in.
Lori's hidden and, someone else is hidden here in the
Well,
back.
I'll get from this steering.
So we need,
Here I got Petrick.
one more, that was a dress rehearsal.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
You gotta move over
Let's
this
try
way so
'em.
you can
there
be
we
seen.
go.
Okay, then I'm gonna holler at him.
Here, and I'll jump in after, listen, I wanna make sure I can see everybody. Sorry, gang, one more time.
Places.
No, I'm not afraid to holler at him.
Tell people in the back.
Check, there we go, check down a little bit.
I'll get a little tighter.
All right,
This for the quality of picture.
all right.
Take a step forward,
Okay,
and then let's put,
There we go.
yeah.
can you fit everybody?
Yeah, we'll get
I got
everybody in here.
everybody before, but there was.
All right,
I'm trying to, because once you put me in here, I block.
all right. Let's take this gentleman right here, let's put you in the back here. Let's have you switch places. How's that look?
Hands inside.
Oh my God, we can actually see everybody this time.
Closer in, there we go.
Now I want to come back here with you.
Here, Buzz, can you come in just a little, can we see?
Jack, you gotta step a little bit there.
No, the man in the green I lost.
That would be Buzz.
Buzz, right, stop.
There we go. How's that?
Oh my God.
Be my friend, Buzz.
Okay.
All right, ready?
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, I'm gonna come just a little closer.
Say money.
One more time. 1, 2,
There you go,
3.
16,000 is pretty good size.
I think I got him.
You got this time?
Everyone.
Check this now.
All right.
We tend to be.
Hey, I'm Vicky.
That's good, though, there we go.
Oh, that's a good picture.
Everybody's smiling, I can see everybody.
My way.
Good. All right.
It's nice to see you guys. Good job.
Everybody.
They forget who my former boss was.
Right,
Until the picture's perfect.
right, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Drew, thank you, thank
The good
you.
part is tomorrow, we release the economic numbers. So I'm holding here in my hands, this has been my homework assignment for weeks now, is to finalize these. I'm still the only economist at the department. These are the final numbers. I was sharing a little bit with Becky here before, but these will be released tomorrow morning by the governor.
Woo!
You will be happy to see your numbers for Trempealeau County tomorrow.
Yay!
Okay? You'll be very happy to see the statewide numbers tomorrow.
Great.
And it also opens up opportunities when you look at the numbers. Obviously, this is why we're doing what we're doing here, is to grow tourism. So, again, but I just want to put that out there as a little bit of a teaser. I'm not going to share anything. The governor won't be sharing tomorrow morning. I don't want to stump him.
Yeah,
You know?
little bit,
So those are his numbers. He gets to share that tomorrow morning first thing. But anyway, congratulations on the work you've already done, and congratulations on the work you're going to do.
You know what, Drew, we just want to really take some time to thank you. We know how much work this is for you as an individual putting this program together. And I can tell you that I know Jeannie and I both have been involved with this process, and I have never seen a process go through this quickly. So
Yes.
that is amazing.
Yep.
Congratulations. Did a great job.
Good job, Drew.
And the thank you. And the lesson is, work with the department before you apply. We did, Dodge County and we did exactly the same process a couple years ago down there. Deadlines don't mean anything in our world. You want to back that deadline up about a couple of months. And we had calls where Heidi Schultz, who's our grant coordinator, she's a rock star. That woman is amazing. She better never leave. If she leaves, I quit. But we had calls, we talked through, because we don't have the final say in who gets the money. That goes to an external committee who reviews this thing. But our win-loss percentage is pretty good when we work with folks. I think the last round, we were like 24 for 26 of the ones that we said, this looks pretty good, let's hope you get it. And there's only a couple people that don't want to ever talk to me anymore, but the rest of them are happy they got some money.
But
So
thanks to you, because
major league.
during that meeting, I was, every time a little buzzword that you were sharing, I was sure we were going to write that in and use those key points into the
And you
grant.
guys did, and you incorporated
So,
very well.
thank you.
Again, it was a solid
You brought in
application.
really
It definitely
good
brought it in.
ideas.
And the cool thing about this too is for everybody is, think of the things that you don't know about in your own county yet. The things you
Right.
don't, we know what's in somebody else's backyard before we know our own. This really gives you the opportunity to really dig in and take a look at where's the traffic, what are they going to, who's here? What are the, 5 things, what are the 5 things that you promote and make the most money off of? What are the 5 things you got the best opportunity to grow? That's what really comes out of this process, is you really start finding out who you are. And at the end of the day, it puts money in cash registers. So, again, thank you, all of you. Lori, thank you for the kind comments, very good. Gene, love you. I'm putting you in this photo anyway, so I'm just gonna shop you right into it. I got one of those standing photos of her just smiling. I'm just gonna stick
There
her
you
right
go,
in there.
there you go. Perfect.
And I apologize, I'm heading out the door to do it. I'm doing another one of these about 3 hours south of here tonight, so I'll be meeting.
Safe
My
travels.
pleasure.
Yes.
Those aren't the best roads you're traveling on that part of the state either.
But it's pretty round and it's
Oh,
not
it's
raining or
beautiful.
snowing or sleeting or,
It's beautiful, but they're not straight.
No, it's all right. But like I said, I built enough time into this one.
Awesome.
It's all
Thank
good,
you
so.
again. That's awesome.
Thanks again.
All right. Item number 5, adoption of the agenda.
I'll make the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'll second.
Okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Then we have to do the approval, number 6, of the 5/10/2024 regular meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Perfect. Number 7 is our public comment call-in. The call-in number is 715-538-1894. Do I do that more than once?
You can just remind them again.
Okay,
Yep,
all
and
right.
slowly.
So-
So now they're listening again.
All right, so now we're listening again, and
Yeah.
the public comment call-in number is 715-538-1894. And we have about 15 minutes if you want to call in on anything. We will,
Being televised? Is this live? Okay, is this live? Okay, thank you.
Yep, it's on air.
Oh, it's fine.
Yep.
Okay. Any comments while we're waiting for folks to call in?
Just keep
Okay,
pulling to
just
the next
move it?
one,
Okay,
because they'll call in in
perfect.
time.
All right, wonderful.
Yep.
Wisconsin Great River Road. Jean has got a wonderful update for us.
Okay, so May 15th,
Hit the, there you go.
May 15th, we had our Discover Wisconsin premiere at the Radisson. We had 160-plus people there. Dave was there. Thank you for coming. Cassie Mordaini, who is the Director of Outdoor Rec, was there as well. We showcased the 8 counties of the Wisconsin Great River Road. This is one episode that we'll be doing. Hopefully, we're going to be doing 2 more shows, fingers crossed. Drew was there. We had a gentleman from NATEL was there. Secretary Thompson from Wisconsin Department of Transportation was there. As soon as it went out, and as of yesterday, on YouTube, we had 40,000 views.
Woo!
We've had
job.
the most views of any of the shows of Discover Wisconsin. Of
Wow.
any of the shows. So I'm extremely proud of the work that we did. The Arcadia Memorial Park was shown. It will continue, now when we do our next show, we'll work more into the communities and get more stuff in the counties involved, which is fabulous. And I encourage you all to go to YouTube and look at it. It was really done very well. Drew, do you have any comment on it?
Just, the challenge sometimes is collaboration, as we all know, so if you're, I think probably everyone is familiar and understands Mississippi River Parkway Commission and the Great River Road. You're talking an 8-county collaboration. In reality, it's really a 9-county because it also incorporates, obviously a chunk of St. Croix County. And despite where the river may cut off at Prescott, you got 412 miles of Highway 35, and a lot of people don't realize that they are following a different river when they head north. So we've got a great collaboration going on, a lot of new partners in place. Jean chairs the Great River Road Committee. Sherry Kwame is the chair of the Mississippi River Parkway Commission. These episodes with Discover Wisconsin came about because of an agreement with the Department of Transportation. So there's the irony. This wasn't even a tourism-related project. This was the Department of Transportation saying, how can we work closer to, to help promote this area. I do serve on the Wisconsin Scenic Byway Council. So this has definitely resonated across the state as well as an opportunity now to say, whoa, wow, look at how they got elevated with this. How do we elevate the rest of the state, including the rustic roads and everything. So, I love to be an optimist, and when you see things come together and there's sometimes criticism of government, do they work together well? I'll tell you, this is about as good as it gets when you got the federal government, the state government, the local municipalities all working together to promote that beautiful corridor. It was kind of fun to be in the rear with the gear for a change and just kind of watch it all come together. So kudos, Jane, and you and Sherry. And there's a new, I keep saying director, it's not her official title, but Selena Diggs is the new hired employee of the Department of Transportation to help manage the Mississippi River Parkway Commission. She's kicking butt. I love working with her. She's another pistol. I love people that just shoot first and aim later and just get things done. I think it's great.
Yeah.
But it really is cool to see that level of elevation, of what's going on. I mean, we're up here now, and everyone in the region is really starting to feel it and believe that we belong in the game when it comes to competing on a national level with the Great River Road. So again, just a really cool feeling there. And the challenge is just continuing keeping everybody plugged in, making sure Trempealeau County is part of the party.
Yeah.
And again, it also incorporates 2 states on the other side of the river. This is a 14-county region, really, despite the 8 counties under the Mississippi River Parkway Commission. The larger picture right in this area is La Crosse Market is really 14 counties and 3 states. And that's what helps to elevate this as well. So the partnerships and that. But anyway, there's my 2 cents.
Thanks.
You asked, sorry.
I know, but I wanted your input. So May
Get our money's
21st,
worth.
the following week on Wednesday was the Amtrak Borealis train service that came in to La Crosse, which is the new line from Chicago to Minneapolis, Drew was there. Secretary Thompson were there, was all his staff, and it also happened to be Tourism Week. So Governor Evers and Secretary Ann Sayers was there that day. It rained, and then it stopped, and then it was humid, but it was wonderful. Another
Sun came
thing,
out for the 45 minutes we
Yep.
needed sun to come out.
Right.
I
it
don't know
was,
who put the order in, but by God, that was luck.
yeah, we got very lucky. It was a beautiful thing and a lot of earned media from that, and I'm excited. Like Drew said, the numbers will come out tomorrow, so that'll be good. In regards to the visitor guide, which Trempealeau County puts an ad in, as of yesterday, I only have 50 boxes left.
Ooh,
And
good
that's
job.
75 visitor guides in each box. So 10 will held back for when we go to Wisconsin State Fair, which is the Wisconsin Great River Road time, Saturday, August 3rd. We will be in the booth with NATO, which is the Native American Tourism of Wisconsin. And there might be someone else, I'm not too sure.
Well, yeah, you're gonna have a third partner that day, which will be Wisconsin Badger Camp, if you're not familiar with that, out of
sure.
Prairie du Chien area. So, full disclosure, I happen to serve on the board, and it's an organization I'm very passionate about. So since they fit the region, I invited them to join us for that day to share, another opportunity that we have in the quarter that I think people don't realize, that we have
Right.
that wonderful camp that's truly, by definition of accessible.
Yes.
Nothing's more accessible than that camp, so.
Explore La Crosse and Grant County will also have a day at the fair. So with that, our counties are going to be covered very well, and I'm very, very happy with
And
that.
Wisconsin Ag Tourism is there, and Dave and I both serve on the board of Wisconsin Ag Tourism, so there are many ways that things do get plugged into State Fair. But I run the State Fair, so if you can't get a hold of me from July 15th.
That's right.
to August 15th,
That's why.
It's because I'm at State Fair getting that thing rolling, but, no, 22, there's 11 days, and there's 2 to 3 partners every day from around the state that come down there. So again, just glad to have that strong representation of Great River Road, La Crosse.
Our side of the state rocks.
Yep, you got going on.
We are working
Florida has its own day as well.
on probably doing a fall gem grant. I will keep you updated. We'll talk about, meaning Wisconsin Great River Road, we'll talk more about that at the June, July meeting. July, I will be sending out RFPs in regards to paper products. We're already beginning to work on our 2025 visitor guide. Paper is one of the things that's extremely expensive, and we do our best to get the best quality that we can for that. And I think we do a really good job. Our visitor guides fly off the shelf, like I said. September is Drive the Great River Road Month. We're thinking about coming up with something to do with a leaf of some sort. Somebody can come up and do something and take a snapshot. Anyway, I'll tell you more about that, but that's also idea, so maybe that might be something that, Dave, you guys can think about and do a drive Trempealeau County for September or whatever. Let's see, we just had our dairy breakfast, right, Dave, is June 22nd. The other dairy breakfasts there's been like 1,700 people going to their county breakfast, so
Wow,
that's
that's
fabulous.
great.
Ours is June 22nd. Trempealeau County Fair is July 17th through the 21st. And I sent this to Dave. It is a Wounded Veterans Ride. It's a truck show, semi-show, and that's going to be June 21st and 22nd. It's going to be held at the Memorial Park in Arcadia. They'll do a light show on Friday night, and then on Saturday, they're going to do a convoy throughout Trempealeau County, and they will not be stopping. They will just travel throughout the county. This is something that just came kind of out of the blue. Let Dave know, let the other communities know, and a lot of them are working with the VFWs, auxiliaries in the area. I will be putting up a sign welcoming them when they come into the village for Trempealeau County, Wisconsin Great River Road. So that's going to be cool. So it's 120 miles, 3 hours nonstop. So that's kind of crazy. And then the last thing I am doing is each of us commissioners, and I am the commissioner for Trempealeau County, we are doing a river asset and assessment. In other words, I will go through our county down in the southern area, parks. Is the road's good? We have toilets. What about, is there a place to fill your water bottle? Is this broken? Is that good? Things that can be changed. And when this gets done, we sent it to the Mississippi River Regional Planning Commission, which of course Trempealeau County is partner with. So that's something that'll be exciting. I'll be able to provide that report to you. when we get done. And the last thing, I had a national conference on last Tuesday, a national meeting, all 10 states of the Mississippi River Parkway Commission. And we are trying to decide what we'd like to do for 2025 in regards to marketing. We have hardly any money, but that's just the way it goes. We do the best we can, and we do have 10 state maps. However, I think I have like 10 packets left, and those are gone. So somehow we have to work on that for the 10 states, but that's where we're at. Busy, busy time, obviously, for everybody. Does anybody have any questions?
Annual meeting.
Oh, yes. Annual meeting is in September 18th and 20th in Winona. When I get that information, I'll forward it out to you. It would be great if you guys could even come for a day, meet other people from the other states, meet our team. September 18th, 19th, and 20th in Winona. We rotate every state, so this year it's Minnesota's time. And Drew will be there, yes?
Absolutely. We have a wonderful relationship with Minnesota.
Yeah.
In fact, we just partnered last week. I just finished a significant Norwegian fam tour I led for 4 days. Minnesota got them for a couple of days. We took them the rest, and we took them all the way through the state from Winona all the way to Lake Geneva. And put them on planes in O'Hare. So this is the first international efforts we've had to work with Norway, Sweden, and Finland. So it's really
Amazing.
cool that this came together. So highlighted the region already.
Awesome. Great. Anybody else have any questions for Dean?
Just Drew, do you ever go home?
No.
Yes.
Are you ever home?
You know, fortunately, my kids are grown and gone, so, you know, I don't have to be home as much. Yeah, I do. I make it home now and then, so. If I'm home too long, my wife asks me why I'm still here.
That's probably a good technique.
is.
I like that
Yeah,
technique.
it might work, right?
Thank you, guys. Have a good day. I gotta run.
Drive
Thank you.
safe.
Thank you.
Drive
Drive
safe.
safe. All right, agenda number 9 item, consideration of the resolution authorizing signing of BEAD, a consultant contract, and Dave's going to tell us about that.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I think most of you probably heard about this, but Kevin and Renee probably maybe have not. So last year, the county received an $18,300 and change grant from the Public Service Commission. Every county in the state, all the tribal units receive these grants. And it's to do broadband internet planning in anticipation of some pretty significant amounts of money coming down the pipe next year, year after, from the feds to actually build out broadband infrastructure in unserved and underserved areas, of which Trempealeau County's got quite a few. What they decided to do is push off that, planning and identification of where those service gaps are to the locals. And so we applied for the grant, we received it, that's all spelled out in this resolution. And we decided to partner with Buffalo, Pepin, and Pierce County, since we had a lot in common, rural counties. And basically also one of the big reasons that we decided to partner was because we knew that a lot of this work was going to have to be done by a consultant, and that $18,000 wasn't going to buy much work for any one county. So fast forward now to where we're at is we did an RFP a couple months ago, request for proposals from broadband internet consultants. I think we had 8 responses. We whittled it down to a couple, negotiated with a couple, got down to 1, and are at the final stages of getting it pinned down. We don't exactly have it pinned down at this moment, although we're going to come in, and I talked to Becky about this last week, and I didn't give her an update, but we are going to come in at a level we're going to be able to fund under the grant. We've done some expenditures out of that $18,000 so far, about $1,000. The consultant, our share is going to be about $16,000. So it'll leave us a little bit of money left in that grant to do some other activities. But that's the way this grant was intended. So what this resolution does is simply acknowledges the past steps, the fact that we're working with these other counties, and then the significant part is that the now be it resolved clause that will authorize Becky to sign the final consultant contract. And I guess procedure calls for me to read that resolution, correct? So I will read it, and then if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. So, title of the resolution is authorized signing of a BEAD consultant contract. Whereas the state of Wisconsin developed a broadband equity access and deployment local planning grant program for all Wisconsin counties and federally recognized tribes. Whereas pursuant to action taken by the Trempealeau County Board June 19th, 2023, Trempealeau County accepted an $18,337.40 BEAD grant from the Wisconsin Public Service Commission to assist with local planning, including but not limited to outreach initiatives, local needs assessment and analysis, and local plans for broadband development. Whereas Trempealeau County has joined a collaborative effort to combine grant funds with Pepin, Buffalo, and Pierce counties to write a quad-county broadband plan. Whereas it has been determined a consultant needs to be hired to do technical work which cannot be performed by county staff to assist in this planning. Whereas the amount awarded to each of the counties alone is also not sufficient to hire a broadband consultant. And whereas the Quad County Group is in the final stages of negotiating a consultant contract which will share the costs between the 4 counties, now be it resolved that the Trempealeau County Board of Supervisors authorizes the county administrator review and execute any agreement and contract related to the hiring of a broadband consultant for this BEAD project to collaboratively serve Pierce, Pepin, Buffalo, and Trempealeau counties. So we need a motion and a
I move
second.
to approve sending this forward to the county board.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Have it for us to sign.
I'm gonna need to print out a clean copy. I noticed a typo in it as I was getting ready to read it. So I will, after I get done with my agenda items, I'll go back and bring back a corrected copy.
Have it in the little blue
Yeah.
form.
Item 10?
Actually, can we go up and close public comment? It's been 15.
Oh, okay, yes. We'll close public comment at this point. And anything else, Dave, on that?
Nope.
Okay, review of the tourism marketing activity, and guess who's on again? Dave.
Actually, item 10 is Economic Development and Tourism
Oh,
Manager
sorry.
Report. That's okay.
Jumped up ahead a little bit.
So I did distribute this in the packet, but I'll just run through a few things. Meetings attended were numerous. He had a Quad County broadband meeting, a couple of different meetings with the Northwest Community Network through USDA. I did meet with Mayor Kimmel in Arcadia. Also had a meeting with City of Eau Claire to discuss some of the things they're doing in economic development, including a couple of loan programs. Did attend the Great River Road, not Rover Road. Jeez. And then did have a call late May with Travel Wisconsin regarding the pre-release discussion of the annual report on visitor spending, which Drew mentioned. Those numbers will be coming out tomorrow. I'll be working to get you those sometime this week. So I'm out of the office tomorrow, but I'll talk to Becky and we'll figure out how we can get that information to you. Last year, we did do a press release on it and talked with county board later in the summer about not only the numbers, but what the economic impact of that was in specifically in county sales tax. And last year, our 67 million in visitor spending really factored down to like $335,000 in economic impact just through the 0.5% sales tax that the county gets. So in terms of upcoming events, I will be attending the Explore Lacrosse annual meeting June 24th. Be at the State Fair August 6th with the Wisconsin Ag Tourism Association to be handing out Trempealeau County information. The following week, I'm going to go up to Cadott, again with Wisconsin Ag Tourism Association, and distribute some information to visitors to Farm Tech Days regarding Trempealeau County. And then the Wisconsin Economic Development Association Best Practices Conference will be in Eau Claire at the end of September. I've been working with a group to put together a panel discussion for the final day of the conference on some of the activities that we've been working on with other counties as well as USDA and the Office of Outdoor Recreation at Travel Wisconsin to promote and develop additional outdoor recreational opportunities. So I think that'll be a good opportunity to kind of brag a little bit about some of the work we've been doing and preview some of the things that we're looking at doing in the future. And other than that, I just listed a few major projects and some ongoing projects. Are there any questions? One of the things on ongoing projects that I just want to hand out, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about it right now, is I have been working for the last couple months on an tourism asset inventory, which Jean kind of talked about working on for the Great River Road. And I'm going to pass these around to committee members, and what I would ask is that when you have time away from the meeting, take a look at these and get back to me individually with any additions or corrections you might have. This is not meant to be a be-all, end-all list, but it was some work from just my observations and some of the communities.
Awesome.
And this is going to be part of what we do with the GEM grant too. So we're already working on that GEM grant even before, before we get going. The other thing, I don't know that I mentioned here, I guess I did, under major projects in my report, was that I did draft and get distributed a request for proposals from basically public relations tourism consulting firms that would be our partners on the GEM grant.
And when are they due?
June 24th. We opened it the Friday before June 3rd, whatever that would have been.
Give it a little.
Yeah. And we've had 2 or 3 firms reach out, ask some questions or express interest. So we'll see what we get. But that will be exciting when we get to that point.
Awesome.
Just want to thank Dave for being on top of the whole grant and getting out the RFP and then handling, he's done a fair amount on that already and just getting it prepared. So, nice job and thanks for keeping that moving forward.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I don't know that Trempealeau County itself has ever applied for a GEM grant. Tourism Council may have, I understand.
I
Nope.
don't think so.
So I guess our time was due.
Well, you still have to do a lot of work, that's for
Yes,
sure.
yeah,
No doubt
and the
about
work
that.
is only beginning.
Yes, yep.
We get, as I think I was mentioning, we will get half of that 17,000 up front once we hire a consultant, and then we get the other half at the end after we have written a report and evaluation and all of that stuff, so.
Okay, good. Good.
And you and Becky will be making the decision on the RFP?
Right, sorry, we have a scoring piece that's ready to go when we get those in, and we'll put a team together to score those proposals so that they come in. Mhm.
Dave, just a quick question on this. Is there any way that we can put something out on either the Facebook or if you got something on like Constant Contact or something like that, where they could say, hey, are we missing anybody or do you know of anything? Or I don't even know if that's feasible. I'm just
So I
throwing
did
it
send this out to all the chambers, just so
Okay,
you know,
okay.
and asked for their input, and I did receive some input.
Good.
Actually, quite a bit from Arcadia.
Okay, good.
And, there are things that's like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
But I'll take a look to see. Again, this is going to be an evolving process, and at some point in this GEM grant process, we are also going to be getting together, a group of constituents.
Yeah.
And I think, this will be something that we further develop.
Absolutely. I
So
think that's a great idea.
we just wanted to have something that was a good starting
Oh, yeah,
point.
absolutely. You can't go forward unless you have something to rip up, right?
Right.
There's a Strum business group.
Oh, good. Get me the contact
And
info.
then, just a suggestion, there's a lot of new hiking is becoming a very popular thing, and you might wanna add a sheet with all the trails, hiking trails throughout Trumbull County.
Yep, that's a good point. Yeah, I know the Strum Community
Strum is
Trails,
really
we didn't put
Great
on there.
one, yeah.
Yep, okay.
All
Yeah,
right. Anybody else have a question for Dave on that? Otherwise, we'll go into 11. And 11 is the use of the CapEx funds, discussion and maybe possible action.
So I did send out a memo here that I hope everybody had a chance to read. And again, for new committee members, I'll just spend a little bit of background here. In November of 2023, so last fall, we did receive a check for $162,150 from the state of Wisconsin as a final payment for environmental impact fees associated with construction of the American Transmission Company Badger Coulee High Voltage Transmission Line project. And that basically came through the area predominantly of like town of Trempealeau, town of Gale, a little bit of Galesville. And then I think, I think the village of Ettrick, some of that. Anyways, the original payment the county got, I think 10 years ago, was about $1.2 million. And that was based on.
That's exactly what they got, 1.2.
Yep, was based on estimated construction costs for the line. So when all was said and done last year, they tallied up what the final value of it was, and since the impact fee is based on the final value, there was a true-up check cut for $162,000 to the county, as well as local municipalities who receive direct payments of impact fees. So the county got the one-time upfront fee plus this adjustment. Local municipalities like Town of Gale, Town of Trempealeau, they get a one-time payment up front, but they also get annual checks.
Oh, okay.
I think in perpetuity, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we looked that up at a previous meeting.
Yeah.
They're ongoing.
So there's been some discussion, about what to do with that money. PTED previously talked about it in January and advanced a resolution asking the county board to designate that for parks funds. It got tabled. And there was some discussion at that time, both in PTED as well as county board, about what impact fees can be used for. And it is generally earmarked for environmental projects, specifically, and I put this in quotes and cited statutes, park conservancy, wetland, or other similar programs. However, and this is the part that I think is maybe new to the discussion, municipalities may petition Wisconsin Public Service Commission to spend the funds in alternate ways that serve the public interest. Such requests are recorded in the project's PSC docket and must be approved by PSC if the request meets a public need. So the public need can be any public need. And I've reviewed the docket for this, and as well as some other projects, and there have been a variety of different things that it has been used for, even locally here. I think Town of Gale used it to buy like a new brush clearing thing. Town of Ettrick, I believe, used it to build a new county highway garage. So what we did with the original money that we got 10 years ago on this is we, as the county had a process where local organizations, communities could apply for grants to fund local projects that they had that, met the ideas behind these environmental impact fees. The biggest single grant was to the Trempealeau, Friends of the Trempealeau Wildlife Refuge, to build a year-round educational center down there. And if anybody's interested, I've compiled and previously distributed a list of like all of the projects that were funded. So anyways, this brings us back to the $162,000 that we recently received. And Becky and I have talked over the last couple of months about proposing use of this for establishing an economic development grant and loan program. This is something that's been in my work plan the last couple of years, and the hiccup that we've always had on it was, where do we come up with the local match, or where do we come up with money to put into it? So basically what we're proposing here is that, and the first step would be just to allow us to write a letter to the Public Service Commission with this proposal to ask if we can do that. The answer would be yes, we're guessing, but then we would come back. So the Economic Development Grant and Loan Program we'd like to formulate this under is a program through the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation called the Capital Catalyst Program. And this is a program that I actually have some direct experience with. When I was the executive director of the Community Development Authority in Whitewater, we had a fairly successful Capital Catalyst program. WEDC provides a one-to-one match. So if you come up with 200,000, they give you 200,000. You loan out that money. When it's repaid, all of the money that comes back, and is in that fund becomes the local program operators' funds. So they're not expecting to get their money back. It's seed capital to help match your capital to build a program that can meet some local needs. And I think they've gotten rid of this requirement. At the time that I ran the program in Whitewater, there was a requirement, or maybe it was a local requirement, but we set aside 10% of the money to be given out in grants, like starter grants to businesses, just to help get off the ground. And then the remaining money was there for next stage growth, to scale up ideas and have them become actual business, actual viable businesses. So if we looked at using that 162,150 just alone, that could capitalize $324,000 300 fund. And I will tell you, I get calls at least once a month, sometimes two, from businesses looking to see, what kind of money do we have to help get started? And I explain to them, we don't have any direct funds. I do link them up with places that do, including Wisconsin Women's Business Initiative, Coalition WIBIC, including Mississippi River Regional Planning Commission, which has a program that's a little less flexible. It can give larger amounts, but it's also based on job creation, and oftentimes a startup business doesn't have any jobs concretely that they can expect to create in the next 3 to 6 months. So the idea would be that, that before we would actually apply for the money, we would be reaching out to banks and some local businesses to see if they might be interested in putting some money in. So we would start maybe with 162,150, but the goal, I think, would be, maybe try to get another 100,000. That might be reaching. It might be really easy from local lenders, because local lenders do have some obligations to put money back, and we think this would be a really great way to do that in partnership with us. So some of the details of how this would be run and stuff is something that, if we get the go-ahead from PTED to go ahead and send this letter to the PSC, that we would be working out before we would bring this back
So
in
is that what
July.
you need from us, Dave, is that motion to go ahead and do that?
Yep, a motion from PTED to allow us to draft and submit to the PSC a request to use the $162,150 in CapEx environmental impact fees to establish an economic development grant and loan program.
Becky, would we do this, then does that have to go to the county board for their approval too? And then they would be the people on our behalf to submit it to PSC?
I think it's okay for this committee, for us to go ahead and get to get the committee approval, committee approval here to submit to the PSC, but then we would, in the end, it'll come back to the board, because we'd be setting aside those funds specifically.
So as long as the committee approves it, we're good to go. Okay, all right. So would someone like to make that motion?
When's the discussion?
You make a motion,
Make a motion
and
first,
then we
yeah.
discuss it.
I move that we allow that the resolution be presented for the Public Service Commission to request use of the $162,150 in CapEx funds.
And I'll second for discussion only.
Okay, discussion?
I guess the obvious question I have, why wouldn't we put this money into the park?
What was the question, Buzz?
Well, we've got a big need for the park, for park development, and it seems like it's always tough to get cash appropriated by county board for that. And even though it's coming down the road a bit, we know we need to do a bunch of work out there. Why won't we take this money and spend it there?
So let me be the first to address that. So we did, and I think I mentioned this, but I'll say it again. We did take a resolution to county board in January that PTED had passed, and exec finance had passed to do just what you said. And there was not, it seemed to me at that time like maybe that should have been an easy decision. And there was not, it just didn't seem like there was the support there. And, maybe people had different perceptions. And again, you got to look at what the competing needs are. I'm not saying, that using it for the parks would be the wrong thing.
Well, I guess we don't have, specific project at this time till we get through the SFR planning process. So I think it's a much different deal to put a generic ask to the county board versus get some projects outlined. I know we want a new playground up. If we had a list of specific projects, is there a need to spend this money, right now, or could we hang on to this till we get through a little bit further through the park planning process, so then we could use these dollars after we got a specific ask of the county board to take this money to build X, Y, and Z in the park. I mean, we spent the last 3 years talking about upgrading the park, and here comes a cash cow down the road, and we seem to be putting her out to pasture a bit.
So
I think what the county board, that meeting was long, the discussion about this money, and you're exactly right. They wanted priorities on what we were going to use it for, even though we tried to explain at the meeting what we were going to use it for. And that was the time when many decisions were, let's wait till the county administrator is here. Let's wait till the county administrator is here. They felt that that person needed to be in place to talk about how to use this money. I don't think there's a sunset on these dollars. They're ours to use for the purposes that Dave outlined when he was reading. But I think what the board wanted, and it nearly almost passed. It wasn't, 17-1. That has been what I have wanted to do all along. A year ago, I wanted the whole amount of money to come to the park.
Yes, Becky.
I guess I want to touch base on a few things. I agree with you completely, Buzz. There's a long list of needs, and I don't deny that. And there's a lot, we have done inventory on what's coming for the park, and we know there are a lot of things, as well as a lot of other needs on other areas throughout the county. I think what's important, and I think you did a lot of prioritization of those types of activities throughout the county when you took those initial $1.2 million and spread it out throughout the county, which are very valid and good projects. I totally support that type of work. What I'm trying to do, I guess, into the comment of wait till the county administrator is here, is I'm trying to bring forward, and what my recommendation is I think it is good to take a step back and say, how do we start to fund these things over and over, rather than this one-time cost and it's gone, right? And so I like to start building economic development opportunities that start to build tax base that comes in, so that we can actually look at saying, this is how we're going to fund projects going forward in the future. And so that's why this is an exciting opportunity. And there's some other funds that are just out there also that, like with Jeremy, he talked about some funds that have just come in recently through an energy rebate on, that came in through maintenance. And so, looking at how, again, we talked about the last time, how we can take a set of funds and we can double that, and the impact that would have. And then those funds, like Dave said, they get cleaned as we put them out and they come back in. Then there are funds, we don't have to give them back. So eventually, if we say, well, we don't really need that economic development fund, or we don't need as much, we could take that money and then put it directly into the park or something. But I guess the thought is more of thinking back on how we can do park projects and all these other things, but we got to start to build,
Gotta
how
make
are we
some revenue.
building
Yeah.
economic development tax base to do all of these things, and so that's kind of the thought behind it. I just wanted to bring that forward.
Dave, do you have a quick?
Yeah, I mean, Becky hit the main point I wanted to make, which was, I think what's really important is that we recognize that this is an opportunity to essentially double our money
Yeah.
and create something that's going to have a lasting impact. And I know, I mean, believe me, bringing this forward, we are the Parks, Tourism, and Economic Development Committee, and, I would feel bad if we thought that it was like, doing this takes away from the parks. There's a lot of opportunities for funding the parks that wouldn't be available to fund something like this. I mean, the opportunity to have some money that's available to be able to get in the game and do something like this, they're few and far between. I mean, we could have done it with ARPA money, but, the die was cast in terms of what we were going to do with ARPA money before I ever got here. And this is something that I've been looking for a way in. And it's like, I totally respect, however the committee wants to go with it. It's just, if we don't take advantage of the opportunity now,
Right.
it might not come again.
A cool opportunity to double our money here a little bit and be able to reach out to some of the banks. I think that's the real key thing. And then, obviously, it's kind of like any sort of business. Once you get it built up a little bit, then you have a little bit to give back to the
In various
community.
ways.
In various ways.
And the
Yeah.
other,
Park won't be,
Right, it'd be all that, yeah. Yep.
and the other exciting thing, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead,
Well,
finish
I
your.
guess one question was, I mean, am I understanding this correctly? That there's some thought to earmark this directly to the park? And if we did, would it then be gone?
Yes.
And so wouldn't it make sense then to invest it and get matching funds and more funds potential and still include the park?
So the other thought I was going to just add in there is, in terms, sometimes these kind of funds, they'll target specific kind of businesses that they're looking to support, but leave it open. And in our case, one of the things that I think is really obvious and maybe become more obvious, the more work we do on destination marketing, is outdoor recreation is a pretty big draw here. But when you start looking at some of the assets or looking at some kind of the businesses that we might need to be able to support an expansion of outdoor recreation, and build up our tourism assets, there may be an opportunity in that space for new business startups. And the one we talk about all the time is like, if we develop this water trail, when we develop the water trail along the Trempealeau River, which Jack is working on, a very obvious need is somebody to get people back from where they put in to where they take
So a
out.
canoe shuttle or
And
something.
there's other things. So we could, as part of our plan here, talk about, businesses that, work in the outdoor rec space, maybe getting some special consideration.
You bet.
The
That's
opportunities are
one
endless.
option. Yep, and do you have
I had a
thought?
point.
Yes.
Dave, just going back on your experience with previous situations, you said you had worked in, with Whitewater and some of these. What I'm looking to do is try to make sure that we still keep the Petrick Park in mind. What type of length of time does it take to, be able to put on these grants that you send them out? Is it a 3-year grant to get returned on revenue, or is it a shorter period? When you're looking at generating and doubling your funds initially, what length of time do you normally contract as far as the capital to get returned back to this group that would be able to invest it possibly in the Petrick Park?
Well, that's a good question. So here's the way I would answer that, is if we're successful with putting together this fund and people use it,
Yes.
and, money gets loaned out and it gets repaid, and as it gets repaid, there's new applicants, that money wouldn't be available for, other uses. And I don't think we would want it to. I mean, that would be a definition of success. Now, if we capitalize this, say, with, 300,000, 500,000 between our match and the state match, and we go a year, 2-3 years, and it just really isn't getting any traction, people aren't using it, which I think is a extremely long shot probability of that happening. But if it did, then that's the kind of thing that we could take a look at And, you know, if money hadn't been loaned out and been repaid in full, you know, from the businesses, then we would be able, I think, at that point, pull out what we had left in the pot. You know, WEDC would, I think, get their money back. But yeah,
So basically, what you're saying is this 162,150 would never have a chance of getting back to Petrick Park.
not unless the program totally flopped.
Okay. So
And we're not, yeah.
Best advantage, they'd never get funds for Petrick Park.
Yeah, I mean, and if you were talking about, you know, if you were approving us creating this economic development grant and loan fund with the hope that that money's gonna come back to Petrick Park, I don't know that, you know, I don't know that you'd want to do that.
Well,
I mean,
I'm
we're
just-
gonna put this program together to
Right.
succeed.
Right.
Right.
But I want people to know that
Yes.
when they're voting.
Exactly.
Yes.
If it's yes or no,
No,
black
yes,
and white.
exactly,
This
yeah.
is a no, so that they understand that part.
Yes.
All
But
right.
on the flip side of that, Dave, I would assume that if we wanted to have somebody do a shuttle service or a canoe business or whatever, that might be a private person in Petrick Park, that could be an option for some funding, is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
Could maybe some money be set aside instead of the whole
Yeah, do we have to
160?
use
Could
the whole-
maybe 10 or 15,000 be set aside? Buzz, I mean, is that something in your mind that
Well, I'm
perhaps
looking
that
bigger
could
than
be
that. We got-
a win-win for both?
We've got bigger needs at the park. I
Right.
mean, we've got a few $100,000 needs there, and it's the same gig there. You can take this same money and double and triple it in the grants programs to do parks work as easy as doing economic development work. And I mean, the money was targeted for doing environmental work, and we haven't, you know, part of the money went that way. But this park has sat there. I've been on this committee 4, 5, 6 years, and we keep wringing our hands because we never had any cash to get anything done, and we don't have county board support to do things on at the park. And so when we do have an opportunity to get some money to develop the park and the park's needs, I mean, we just turned back a several $100,000 grant because we chose to go a different path. Now, I just say, I would like to sit on this money a bit till we get through this next round of park planning and really define what those needs are. I mean, I spend a lot of time in the Rural Partners Networks, and my gosh, there's more dang money for rural economic development out there from the federal government than we've ever seen in our lifetimes right now. And to give some money away, and there isn't for environmental work and grants money, it's always highly competitive. And so are we kicking the can down the road is my concern, that we're gonna be sitting here in a couple of years still waiting, looking for some monies to do upgrades to the park, and that's my major
Okay, Jack?
concern.
Yeah. So, when I started, I guess, the CapEx dollars were something that I thought some of it would go to the park. I didn't think we'd get all of it. But a reservation or registration system is something that we really need. It's a tool that will enable us to grow. With Camp Spot, that's more for commercial campgrounds, in my opinion. And we need something like that to enable us to grow. And the price tag of installation on something like that, it's going to be pricey for that initial. It's like 13,000. If we wanted to move away from Camp Spot and go with something that most other counties have, it would be a lot initially, and then annual costs would be a little bit more, probably around the $4,000 to $5,000 range. But that would be if we're gonna set aside any funds, like that would be where I'd want to go with it.
Jack, how many total sites do we have there again?
98.
98 sites, okay. Okay,
And if we want to think about programming or having day use out at the park and day camps and working with Extension to help do that, just
would be-
having this
yeah.
would be great and would enable us to grow. So if we were to set any funds aside or table those for the park, that would be my option.
Go ahead, Jeannie. Sorry.
We also have talked about, landing sites for canoes and kayaks and making them accessible. You know, there's just so many things, you know, I'm kind of leaning with Buzz and Jack. We've talked, you know, I've been on the committee for 10 years, and
I
we
definitely.
keep talking about doing the same things and they never get done.
I definitely agree with that, but that might be a perfect opportunity for more of an economic development grant, because I think it would be very difficult, and Jack, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's going to be really difficult. You know, we certainly could put that launch in there, but somebody's still got to rent out the canoes and shuttle them back and forth.
So there's one other opportunity with like recreation system. There's one I had a meeting with called Civic Rec, and has the opportunity to do like week rentals. So like they get a canoe for 5 to 7 days, and then they're required to put it back. So there's also that. So we wouldn't maybe need a shuttle service in that case. So that would be really cool if you had our new canoe and kayak launch site at the park, and then had some canoes by it, but people could rent them out for dates instead of having to need a shuttle service. And they just-
I would really like a little bit more information on the reservation system, because I have seen that really not go well in county kind of run systems specifically, so.
Is that the system that state parks and national parks use?
It is not.
And the county parks?
There's
around here?
different options. A lot of the counties around here use Connect Parks. There's other counties that use Civic Rec. We're using Camp Spot. I want to be able to enable programming on the backside, maybe for 2025, and also communicate with UW Extension. But this would just be able to, parents would be able to make an account. Liability waivers would be signed right within there, and it
You
would
can
be
do the same thing on campus bus. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Becky?
Well, that is where I just wanted to point in saying, I would really want to talk to Lori about this and saying, and research all of those pieces first before, and know, before we invested in any type of reservation system. And that's different than what we're doing, especially with an increased cost. It just would take a lot more research and talk, and I think we have a great resource right here to involve in that. The concept, I think, that I just want to point out one more time is just saying, the funds, for instance, every business you start up, right, is going to be paying taxes into the tax roll, and that's what increases the funding that comes into the county so that you can take on projects. It's very difficult to take on a lot of these, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars that are, you can't, 162,000 is not going to come close to doing a lot of the work that needs to be done at that park. But if we're bringing in a new business that is paying new taxes into the system, those taxes can then be used to pay costs to do a monthly, a borrowing charge, just like you would do on your car, right? And to pay off the borrowing that we would need to take on these larger projects. So that's really the concept behind growing your economic base in the county, is to look at ways that then we can afford more of the projects that you're talking about.
Just a couple of more things. First off, really what we're asking for today is simply the ability to write a letter to the Public Service Commission asking if we can
Even do it.
use it for this purpose. I mean, the answer, 99.99% certain, is going to be yes. So if you approve that, between now and July, Becky, Jack, and I can have a discussion about some things. And again, I didn't want this to bring this forward with it being,
Right.
we got to do economic development or we got to do parks. And for the new members, it's not that Parks doesn't have any money. What's in the Park Reserve Fund right now, Amy? 200, or Jack? So, there's $219,000 out there, and what that is that's money that gets accumulated non-lapsing from not spending, the previous year's budget. And so there's money out there to do some stuff. Is it to do everything we could possibly dream of? No, but there's also grants down the road, when we do figure out what we specifically do want to do. And, in this case, we're just simply putting in front of you an idea of something we can do with this money. And, between now and July, if we get the answer back that, yes, we can do this, then we'll come in with a more specific plan. And maybe there's some more information we can give you that's useful in terms of park priorities and, some other ways we can do things.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. Is there any further discussion or?
I have a quick question, and maybe, I'm new at this, I don't
Yeah,
know.
sure,
We were
no.
talking about how much money is in the account. Are there fundraisers for the park occasionally?
There certainly could be, correct? I mean, and I
We're
think
just
that could
starting
be
a
a
friends
huge
group, so
Yep,
that's a whole
yeah.
different thing with 501c3 that could bring different opportunities for
Opportunities,
money.
definitely,
Because they can
yep.
write for grants that the county
Can't, yep.
and whatever. But
So they can write for grants,
Yeah.
and can they solicit contributions from businesses and
Yes, yep.
associations?
Sure.
So I think there could be some potential there too.
Absolutely. Last call
Just,
here.
we,
Jean.
the park does have, we have gotten a lot of money from people who just want to give to the park. My question is, are we setting, and I don't know really who to address this to, are we just setting aside all the work we did with the agency that came and gave us?
Oh, absolutely not.
the
I don't,
pool-
I don't think that's the.
I know we
cue.
put the pool away, but there was also, we have a playground equipment that's not currently safe. And we talked about the potential playground for kids that was it's not accessible. So if you have a kid that's differently abled, they're not gonna be able to play. I wouldn't let my kid play on that playground. It's old and not safe. What?
Okay, guys, so I think we have to.
I just
I'll
got
address
one
that in
comment.
my
Okay.
report.
We do have the commitment to the Shank family that we had to do
Right.
something
Yes.
on the 6 acres that were donated. And my concern is, let's get through the SFR planning for that, see what those resources needs are, what our grant opportunity needs are, and see if this money could, if you match that 1-to-1 or 2-to-1, we could turn the money we have on hand and this money into $1 million potentially with grants. That option out there, and that's my concern, is that we lose that opportunity if we come up with, we gotta do something with that park space or the land goes back to the Shanks. They gave us an extension because we said we're going through this next phase of planning with our consultant, and we haven't finished that consulting yet, so.
Is it the end of 2025 now, or 20,
For what?
the Shanks?
That would be, I'm not sure.
The last
Yeah.
was December 24, so December is coming.
Okay, so the motion on the table would be to ask if we could send the public commission funds and if they could be used for this economic development. So are we ready for a vote? Okay, so,
All those in favor?
okay, all those in favor? Or do we have to do a roll? Okay,
Because it's money,
okay,
potential money.
all right. Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
No. Am I the last one?
No, I'm the last one.
And I can
No.
vote too, right? Okay. And I would say yes. but- Okay. So then we go to the. 3 to 4. Okay, so. All right. And then the next item on the agenda, I guess that is just tabled there. And then, yeah. Okay, so the review of the tourism marketing activity, Dave?
Sorry, review of economic development and tourism planning document.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I'll go through this, not super quick, but I know we're kind of going a little long here. So Becky and I had a few meetings about putting together an economic development and tourism strategic plan. If you recall, earlier this year, I brought forward in January, I think, a work plan. And with Becky coming on board, I really wanted to make sure, as I'm sure she did, to make sure that what I thought was important was aligning with what she thought was important. So this is really kind of a replacement to that document that some of you saw earlier in the year. And it's, I think, better focused on a handful of things we really want to do well instead of a lot of things we can do sort of halfway. So the first initiative, significant initiative here, is creation of the county economic development and facade improvement program. That's another use potentially for this money. We were just talking about if we create this fund, is providing some money for, downtown Main Street businesses, especially in historic districts that might want to, fix up the front of their buildings to, be better fit with that historic district. So just kind of put together a timeline here, and this is in response also to, I heard you earlier in the year where you wanted to see some timelines attached and some key measures or key steps. So it would involve, for instance, gathering examples of grant and loan funds, been working on that, working on outlining, the program, and then meeting with potential partners, banks and businesses, which is something, given what we talked about today, that we'll still go forward with having those meetings.
Could you put that up on the screen?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
No, that's okay.
No, I was, yes.
I didn't
Was
either.
looking for
so
two, yeah.
I had intended to do that, I'm so sorry. Let me
That's okay.
see, where is it here?
You're forgiven.
I don't usually have this much stuff on the agenda. There we go. All right, so the other thing I didn't mention about that money that we would seek to get from Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation is their funding cycle opens in July for the state fiscal year, which runs July 1 through June 30th. So what we do want to do is if we're going to go forward with that, after the PTED and county board, if they were to give approval in July, we would want to be getting our application in. And we've already talked with WEDC a couple of times, so they know we're interested. And then, eventually, if this program was created, then we would be working on marketing it to communities and entrepreneurs, et cetera. Second major initiative in economic development is having a county municipal summit. And now that Kara's on board, this is something she's going to be working with Becky and me on to, did you know this yet? To reach out to our,
when she heard it.
to our to reach out to our government leaders. See, you come to a meeting and you find out what's on your work plan. But the idea is to get all of, the local elected officials, city, county, the chief elected officials, so mayors, village presidents, board presidents, that type of thing, together and talk about a limited but significant agenda of topics like housing, childcare, the availability of economic development funds, planning downtown development. And the idea is that we would get those folks together, plus or minus July or August, and then out of that would come the opportunity to develop some work groups with communities that were interested in specific areas, like Arcadia, Osseo, Galesville, because they all just recently created affordable housing funds from expiring TIF districts, I think are going to be a cohort that are going to want to work together, hopefully, on housing. But there might be other communities as well, that want to jump in as a work group on that. And then the final one is downtown development, and I think I've mentioned it before, but Osseo and Galesville were both accepted into the Connect Communities program, so I'll be providing some support for them as we go through, the next year to just help them be successful with that. I've listed Rural Economies for Rural Communities grant, and that is an EPA grant program. It's not currently open at the moment, but we've been receiving some of information on that through USDA. There's another one that I don't think I'm listed here. That's one related to like recreational economies for rural communities as well. Oh, no, wait, that is the recreation economy for rural communities, I'm sorry. And that one, and again, some of these are, we talk about grant funds, and, there's different kinds of grant funds you can get. Some are hard cash, like the one we just talked about, where they put in. Some are, you're required to put in, 2-to-1 match, or sometimes it's higher. And some are purely technical assistance grants. And like this Recreational Economies for Rural Communities grant, it's a technical assistance grant program that's targeted at like downtown areas and rural communities. And so there's no hard dollars there, but there's some money to, help assist with planning and developing stuff that then leads into maybe the opportunity to get some hard money, from another federal agency down the road. And so this is one I've been looking at. The window, again, is not opened yet for that one, but it may be one that fits really well with Arcadia because they check some of the boxes that the feds are looking for in terms of giving preference points. So that's it on the economic development side.
All right, any questions on that? All right.
Otherwise, I'll jump over
Yep.
to GEM. We talked a little bit about GEM, distributed the RFP. We're reviewing RFP, and this will be ongoing through June 30th of next year. Outdoor recreation, as part of our multi-county outdoor rec consortium, we did apply for a USDA Rural Business Development Grant to try to leverage, current recreational opportunities with some additional money to try to create, more destination outdoor recreation that would draw visitors. So again, that's one of those intersections of economic development and tourism as well. And then we talked about the asset inventory, and that's it. Those are the major focus areas. It's not a lot quantity-wise, but it's really substantive stuff.
Yeah, and very targeted, there you go. Park priorities discussion.
Actually, we've got, if we're done on that one,
Yep.
I got one more item.
Oh my God.
I know.
This is the Dave Carlson meeting.
As I say, you're earning your keep today, Dave.
I tried.
Good job.
Let me see, share again.
What is next?
That last document wasn't in your packet because I didn't get it from Dave.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I'm like,
I didn't see it either. Okay.
Really, I didn't drop that one? I am so
No,
sorry.
you did not.
Okay, my apologies, I thought it was in there.
What
This
is-
one was, wasn't it?
What is this one?
yes, that
Yes.
is.
This is the tourism and park marketing. So this is, it's kind of to meet Gene Galazinski's request. Because you sent me an email and I think you asked about
Yes.
P and M, and I was like, I didn't know what P and M was. And
Yeah, oh, yeah,
your
sorry.
vocabulary,
Promotion and marketing,
but we
P&M.
figured out that it was the same thing that I knew. So what this is, just a real quick summary. You kind of see on line 14 there, there's a blank spot. Everything above that is money we have already expended. Everything below that is money that is anticipated to be spent. And all but one of those items is with absolute certainty. The Trempealeau County Times ad, both the amount and, what we do with that is a little bit in flux. Jack and I have talked a little bit, but the concept behind that one is to do some kind of an ad that would reflect a quarter-page ad, I think it is, but do something probably in the next few weeks to try to generate visits to the park, like camping at the park.
Fourth of July promo.
Well, 4th of July promo and the balance of the summer. Yeah. So we're going to talk about that, but I put a placeholder in the marketing budget of $585 for that. And then just so for clarification's sake, so, let me see. No, I didn't. Yeah, I pulled up the wrong one here. Anyway, oh no, there it is. So I listed down at the bottom what the budgeted amounts are for tourism marketing and parks marketing. Tourism is 18,000, parks is 4,000. When we did the budget process last year with exec finance, as well as the county board, we did talk about, utilizing those somewhat in tandem, recognizing the fact that if we're marketing tourism, especially on, more of a regional basis through like the Great River Road Visitors Guides, Explore La Crosse, Visit Winona, that we should be marketing the park as well. So that's what we've been doing, is we've been including parks marketing, and I can show you an example of what that looks like right here. Now, maybe I won't. Anyways, so what we did is we had made a decision last year that when we included parks marketing as part of a more general, visit Trempealeau County, that we would allocate some of that money back to parks marketing. It essentially lets us leverage the tourism budget and also expand the reach of the parks marketing budget, versus them having to do their own marketing, for camping and stuff, especially in those regional publications. So where we're at is with all the things in column D there, that would more than expend the 18,000 we have available for marketing. When you look at tourism share, where we have allocated some of that back to parks on a few of those specific items, it would be 17,091, which would still leave us a little bit of money left to do some general tourism, take advantage of some opportunity that came up. And that would be 1,700 of that 4,000 in parks marketing that would be expended, leaving Jack 2,300 to do, some other specific stuff.
Good.
So I just thought that would be, helpful to look behind the curtain and explain where the money has been going.
Thank you for doing that, I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Great. All right.
And I think I'm done.
All right. And then we go to Jack and Becky on the park priorities.
I'm gonna go print that resolution.
So Becky will have a note towards the end here, but it would be mostly me. Just giving you guys a brief update on where I am with park grant targets. So we had talked about wanting to add some trees, kind of to improve the noise, but mainly the aesthetic along the highway. So I've been in communication with a few different people about this. Using the conservation people, they've been a great asset for me if I've got tree questions. So applaud them for that. They're great people to work with, Rick Reisinger, Morgan, and Haley. So I'll continue working with the conservation team on some forestry projects, but that will be the main one. We're gonna need some funds for that. We went into it a little bit previous meeting, or it would have been 2 months ago. It was like 692 trees, and it was like a dollar figure that was above 1,000. So I'm gonna be applying for the startup forestry grant in July here. I called the DNR. They recommended, with it being a new project, that you apply for the startup. That's gonna be for the 2 to 3 rows of white pines that go along the highway. Rick had given me, and Haley had told me, you might wanna think about planting something other than white pine, just in case something like emerald ash board comes down the road with the ash trees. If something with pine trees comes, then it'd wipe them all out. So we might have a little bit more than $1,000 for that project. So this urban forestry startup, there's 2 options. There's a regular and a startup. The startup funds up to $1,000 to $5,000. So hopefully we can get that project done with that money. And the maintenance with the trees would just be some stem cutting, probably a couple times a year. So it would be pretty cool to watch them grow. It would probably take 9 to 10 years if we went with the smaller trees, but if we got bigger plugins, it all just depend on what we get for urban forestry. But there's some things that we want SRF to do, and there's some things that we want to do internal. So this is one of those projects that I'm going to be looking into. Same with playground. I'm going to kind of see what's out there. If we can, so we have a natural area that we're planning for with SRF, but if we can get any extra funds, maybe we can get another little structure to, accommodate more age ranges. The canoe and kayak launch site. This is where I maybe want some discussion and possible possible action. So I'll go over this one in detail. With 2,600 available in grant funding, we're still determining the proper course of action for this launch site at the park. The grant is matching, so that number would be at 5,200. I saw that. Oh, and one other thing, so I'm Jack Hay for the new committee members. Sorry, I got right into it. Watched the meeting, so I'm very glad to be working with some new people. It's an exciting position, and there's a lot that needs to be done, but excited to kind of had people in my corner. So thank you for all the old committee members and new committee members. Excited for this next couple of years here. So back to that, the grant is matching, so that number would be at 5,200. So that leaves, how do we fund that? Two options available that should be open for discussion. An accessible floating dock that is taken out yearly, winterized, runs anywhere between 12 to 17K for materials and installation. Examples can be seen by Juneau County with their work on the Baraboo River. Cooley region, Jeff or Steve Howe gave me a quote for one of those docks at $12,687. The other option would be the more traditional kayak and canoe launch that you may have seen in Cross Road. It would be about $6,600 for excavating costs and materials. But I just had a meeting with Indy Elk, Daryl P., and they would maybe be willing to give us cattle panels because they have a bridge on 186 if I help them with the permit. So we would maybe get some free cattle panels, which would be good. Those would run down, be the trek to get down to the river, and we would probably.
Can you explain that?
Yeah.
I got a different vision of cattle.
Yeah, I'm
Sure.
same boat. I'm
So
thinking about Powder
they're
River.
like, if you've seen the crossroad, if you guys have ever been to the crossroad landing, there are these big cement, like cattle things that the excavator will dig in there, and it'll just be the trek to get down to the river. And I think that's the way that kind of they have been done the last 20 years, but we also kind of have to think about with something new and accessibility.
Right.
And like an accessible, if we went with the floating dock, the option for it to be a little bit more accessible is there. But we could look into a way to get a board, like some type of a platform out. It wouldn't be totally accessible, but that's what Whitehall Lions are thinking about doing in Colonel Larson Park. So there's a couple options for this. Traditional route with having those cinder blocks and just the traditional clearing. I challenge you to go out to Cross Road, kind of dealing with some more flooding stuff with that. The sand will come up a little bit. Those cattle panels, there's only like one or two showing in Cross Road right now. But the way you put it in, will ultimately affect that. So I read today when I was reading the waterway permit, we were kind of thinking that canoe and kayak launch site would go down in the beach, but it can't be across from a wetland. And it's direct wetland right across the river there. So we would actually have to think about that launch site. I guess there was maybe one Daryl told me about today, 20, 30 years ago, kind of by our trails. So we might have to think about a new location than I was thinking initially for that, because that's not as much of a wetland concern as is right across the river. It steeps down, kind of by our lower loop is where I was hoping to maybe put it. But we'd probably be looking at where our trails are currently and kind of back there by the river more. But yeah, so.
But just quick on that one, Buzz, would you say the accessible float would be the way to go if we could make it work?
I just brought up, Jack, have you reviewed, see if it's grant eligible for recreational boating facilities grants?
Yep, it is definitely eligible for that. I've done a little looking into it, gonna do some more looking into it for sure. Because if we did want to go with the accessible route, then we could go for that RBF and try to,
I think we want to make the river accessible to everyone.
Yeah,
don't
yes,
we?
I think that's really
Yes,
important,
we
you
do.
know?
yep.
Yep, and I think that that would also open the doors for other folks to possibly do some donations or whatever it might take to make that part happen.
On the design, it seems the big issue is gonna be flooding. Yeah, it's gotta be built to take the hit.
Right.
Gotcha.
And the floating dock would be more work with that, you know, like,
Just scoot it, it just floats up.
sure.
Well,
You kind of have to anchor it in a little bit, and then we'd have to think about how are we gonna put a smooth path to get there. With the clearing, like on Cross Road, you're pretty much putting in cattle panels, and you're kind of letting it. It's not nearly as much maintenance. You don't have to worry about it anymore once you kind of get it done. But I see both sides. Like I've promoted both sides. I get both sides. So
yeah,
I
well, Jack,
guess I'd ask
keep doing-
today.
Yeah, keep doing
Yeah,
your
I guess I'd
research
ask
and-
today. I would want the committee's opinion on what they'd favor: a traditional launch with excavating and clearing with cattle panels, like Cross Road, or a floating dock that may be a little bit more accessible for everybody to use.
Well, I guess the question I have, are we required to make it accessible? Because we're in a public park.
There might be a way to make that accessible. Make that accessible without having to do the floating dock.
Kind of a wharf type thing or
Yeah.
something, where they come inside.
Where you can have like some type of like pathway or like wooden path that goes down to the river and kind of goes overhangs into the river, and like about 10, 20 feet. That's what Whitehall Lions are looking into for their launch. So
Well,
It's perfect, floating docks are perfect for kayaks, you can just walk down there or wheel down there if it's accessible.
Perfect,
You
so-
Get yourself in with help or whatever.
and RBF, is that still 4 times per year you can apply?
I think it's 3. It might be 4.
Used to be quarterly.
They're-
So Jack, you're gonna bring us back some more information
Sure.
on those, and then we can kind of go from there. I think that's a project that's near and dear to all of our hearts, so.
Okay.
Except I hate, we're always putting off this dock to next month, to next
Yeah,
month.
it's tough.
And
I would
I
really
want us
like,
to
I'd
make a
really like a
decision
decision if, what route I should be going.
I think
I
it's,
know some committee members might have some different opinions, so, something like ADA code is something to think about, in 2010.
Sure.
You know, anything that you put in new should be accessible.
Has to be, doesn't it?
Yes, has to be, so,
So I think that answers our question. And Buzz, you're the expert
but there
in
is
this,
ways
so-
to try to make it accessible
Yeah.
if we kind of do the traditional route too.
So-
But maybe we get that, it's gonna be less cost to go the traditional route, like at Cross Road.
I think it sounds like, if I could just say, that it sounds like the committee is saying we should go ADA, but then let's look at what other,
What other
what
options
options
you
of
might have.
ADA
Perfect.
are there?
Yep.
And the costs on ADA, but keep it ADA accessible.
There's
Does
a-
that sound right?
if you just Google floating docks, there are a million
Yes, yes.
options.
Sure.
And
And
they're
I'm
all
sure
cool.
Jack will pick us the best
Because
ones.
the Wolf River, when you put your canoe in over there, there's all kinds of, they're all always accessible. Or put your kayak, I don't have a canoe, I have a kayak.
Okay. What's the next thing, Jack?
Sure. So we're still on park priorities, so FRS, discussion priorities, just wanted to highlight that of what is external. Those are kind of things I'm working on, internal above. But with working with Phil and SRF, we want to kind of focus on septic. It was installed in 1998. It's got about a 25-year lifespan for a septic system, so extra pumping was already needed this year. So I think this definitely needs to be a priority. So that's good for Semington. We're gonna kind of do a walkthrough this week. And I was hoping to at least ask them, if they would be willing to what they may be thinking about a possible plan of replacement, how much that would cost, and eventually, hopefully they'd have a quote for me that I'm able to present to you guys. Natural play area, something that fits our outdoor environmental concepts that we've presented in this past meeting. I think we have a good idea. I'm really in favor of something that's like a main amenity that's going to draw people to the park. So some type of fun slide, swing set, things that kids can climb on. That's all good stuff that kids are going to have fun and maybe entice people to camp a little bit more at Petrick. And then bridge location study was kind of one of the last things we wanted to have SRF solidify. So if the time does come, bridge was anticipated being 800 to 900,000. So it's a big chunk of change. So we're not exactly sure when that would be able to go through, but we at least want to know where it would go. So bridge location study is kind of the last thing we wanted SRF to look at. And then just an if there's any questions with that?
Well, not specifically that, maybe I missed something in the discussion, but are you gonna get into where the whole SRF plan update's gonna come? I mean, we kind of
Sure.
got rid of the pond idea, and then
Yep.
we've been kicking that can down the road too.
Yeah, I would like to definitely figure out with Phil so we had an initial meeting last month. So Dave and I guess, are kind of doing that in tandem here. I'm trying to figure that out with SRF. But I'd say with before the next meeting, we should plan to meet with him and kind of go over these things. We briefly kind of went over it last meeting with him when we talked about it, but solidifying that with Phil, and then having something that we can bring back to July's meeting
Is that
would
gonna
be
take
good.
more funding out of our 219,000 to move that?
If we
plan?
start it.
So let me see if I can answer that question, Buzz. So, boy, when was it? Yeah, it was like last fall. PTED approved that consultant contract with SRF, and it was for up to $53,000. We have to date spent 13,000 of that.
Okay.
So
we
there
still
would be 40,000 left on the contract, however, we haven't paid that 40,000. So that would come out of park reserve funds as we do that work. Now, there's no requirement that we spend $40,000 with SRF. In fact, I would argue that we probably should be rescoping that contract through some kind of an addendum process or something to focus down to the things that the committee really wants to have SRF do. So we've already communicated to them that we're not doing anything else with Rec Pond. So since February, they've not done any work on Rec Pond. They haven't done any work on anything that has been billed back to us. But what we really need coming out of the committee, what Jack needs, is, some specific things that we want to see them develop.
Well, since we've got a new committee, could you come back and start with the conceptual plan
Yeah, that'd
that
be good.
led us to the SFR fund? And so I think everybody gets on the
Yeah.
same
That's a great
page.
idea. Yep.
Yes.
And then, because, we got two generations of folks here.
Right.
And it's not really fair to you guys until we understand where we started this, but there was that overall concept plan, and representing that, because there were options in there with and without a rec pond, if I remember
Right.
correctly.
My urging to the committee would be this, and then I won't say anything else about this, because actually, I'm going to be transitioning out of being involved with the SRF consulting contract, just because of competing priorities. But before we start giving SRF the opportunity to have billable hours, I think we really need to have a focus for them.
Yep, and I think that's just what you're saying,
Yep.
Buzz. That's a great
I
idea.
said, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so
Go
if we can, if you guys can figure that out, that would help a lot.
Yes.
I just want to There's a public hearing in this room at 3:30, part of Human Services Committee meeting. And
Yep,
so I
we'll
wa-
just keep them moving along.
Okay, I just want, I mean,
Thank
not
you.
that we don't,
Nope.
I mean,
Thanks,
we
Jane.
really need to
Yes,
discuss
thank you very much. Yes,
these
we
issues,
definitely want to do
but-
that.
But there is a public hearing at 3:30.
Absolutely. All right, anything else, Jack, that you have for
Yeah,
us?
I can just kind of read some headings and be brief here.
Sure.
Could we just finish this? Can you
Don't
put
be-
that as agenda item next time to bring
Sure.
back?
Yeah, so
Yes,
what I had
absolutely.
for, just going back, would love to connect with Phil before the next time we meet, and I'd love to do some type of conceptual plan, so we're all on the same page.
Well, we had that other consultant develop
Yep.
a conceptual plan.
Yeah,
Right,
just
and I
bring
think
that-
we just need to rescope it
Yep.
a little bit with all the changes.
Yep,
So could maybe you, are you looking, Buzz, for him to email it ahead of time, so we all can read it?
Well,
Is that what you
something,
want?
so.
Yeah.
if we're
We all
starting
have the
now-
Well,
plan.
I know,
I
but
don't.
they're new
The new
We can
members.
get it to you guys. I
Well,
mean,
that's
Well,
where the email might be handy.
yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you do update
So
it,
just-
then you will all need it, right?
yes,
So
correct.
just email it out if you
Yep.
would be so kind.
Yep.
Thank you.
Perfect.
do we still have the big boards that were hauled around to different, or did they keep those?
Yeah.
So
They had it all
what
on great-
Jeannie's,
they
what
had it
Jeannie's
all on great
referring
big-
to, what
Okay,
Jeannie's
guys, let's-
referring to, just because Jack may not be aware of this, or Becky, is, what was it, was it neighborhood? There was a consultant back in late '21 to early '22 that scoped out the Petrick Park master plan. So that was sort of park planning 1. And then park planning 2 was what we started down the road with SRF Consulting, which is now on hold. The master plan was a big aspirational thing with all kinds of different potential projects, not prioritized at all. And then the idea with, when we started to consult with SRF was that we had given them some priorities, rec pond, play areas, and a bridge study. So rec pond is now off the table, leaving those other 2 things. So it would be good information for those of you who weren't around for the start of Park Planning 1 to get that information.
And that went through a very public process.
Yes,
Correct.
yeah.
Community.
So,
and-
yeah, so let's just, Jack, if you wouldn't mind, why don't you just kind of pull that together, send it out, and then even to get even farther into that, if you know any costs on certain things, just to include those so that we could have something so that we can get off a stop here.
Sure.
I think, didn't SRF have some kind of cost on the
They
playground?
did, so if you send that along, that will be great, it'll get
They all
everybody
had
up to
costs.
speed. Anything else, Jack?
Nope.
Oh,
Not on
You're
me.
done?
No, I have
Okay.
like 5 minutes.
And then 16, the bench tree donation form discussion, and Jack,
sorry.
that's you?
Park report.
I'm
Oh,
sorry,
sorry.
you
I
always
think
get
you
the
sent
short
the park
stick,
report
Jeff.
to them, unless you're
Jack.
asking for actionable. We expect that everybody read that. If you have any questions, otherwise we'll move on then.
Okay, great. So bench tree donation form.
Yep. So, been working a little bit. You can pass these around. This is kind of what I'm thinking. Not going to be any approval today. There was too many moving parts. But conversating with Jared. So the reason this came forward is when people come to us or call wanting a memorial, I want to have some type of plan so we don't have a bunch of mishmash of benches, trees, that type of thing. So had some conversations even since the packet went out with Jeremy, our facilities director here, and he gave me a good bench that we can give a couple colors to, and then that way we have the same bench out at the park. Kind of did the same thing with tree species. If somebody wants to donate a tree, say, have some that are ready. We're able to just give them a list. You can pick from these trees. Haley told me today to also, if we're thinking about like maybe campsite screening, hazelnut trees or some serviceberry type shrubs for campsite screening to kind of vary those up. So that's kind of another thing that's not listed.
Will tamaracks work out there?
So we've got, those species are labeled, kind of worked with Rick and our county forester. Those species are white pine, red pine, bur oak, swamp white oak. Ryan Strand, our county forester over in Tower Ridge Building, he strongly recommended swamp white oak He said it'd do very good out there with the sandy soil. Tamaracks, American sycamore, and cottonwood. I was a little hesitant on this one because of the white little leaves, but he said that there's enough of that by the river anyway right now, so that where that would be a good option as well. But yeah, I'd like to approve the species list, and then kind of going forward with that process of if someone wants to donate a park memorial, when it comes to trees, benches, and plaques, we would work with River Valley Trophies in Arcadia, who did the engraving out at Memorial Park. I talked to, what was her name? Just had an email from her today.
Tamke?
What is it?
Bridget Tamke?
Oh, Bridget, yes. Talk to Bridget. We're gonna work up some type of plan for them to do the plaques. So people would have like a character list that they'd send out to the park, and that way we can have a
Perfect.
plan.
So it'll all look the same.
And not just have, like right now, we have 5 or 6 random kind of memorials out there. I don't know what's behind it, how is it dedicated, that type of thing. So this would help out with that.
All right, so Jack, do you need a motion to approve the bench or tree uniform?
Yeah, uniformity.
Madam
That's
Chair,
a tough
Yeah.
word.
I move to approve the plan that Jack has brought forward for the memorial and tree donation form.
I'll second.
Perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Perfect, awesome.
Oh, any discussion?
No, that's before that.
Before that,
Yeah,
okay,
before
gotcha,
that.
okay.
Just-
Any
that way you don't
discussion?
shave it off.
Everybody approved? Okay.
Good, you're learning, it's all
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it's good, it's doing real good.
Rodeo update, Jack.
Waiver form, volunteer waiver
Oh,
form.
sorry,
Yeah,
geez.
you're good.
I gotta have better glasses.
So I'll pass this around. This is the river cleanup that the Trempealeau Sportsman's Club, this is their waiver. Wasn't able to construct one before our meeting today, but I thought it would be good for you guys to see an example of kind of what I'm thinking when it comes to some type of waiver. So if we say have or need a waiver for our Friends of group or have like a new project initiative, we should have some type of form that everyone has to sign before they can participate that eliminates the county from any liability.
Jack, I would guess that that's a corp council thing anyway, right?
Okay, yep.
Okay.
And I
So-
was just wanted to bring this forward to let you guys
Perfect.
know that this is kind of what I'm
Working
working
on
on.
it. Great.
There might be a second form if we have a volunteer for a professional service, so I'll be looking into that as well. But yeah, I'd say probably not looking for approval, even though it's noted. Just want you guys to kind of see that we're kind of working towards things slowly when it comes to like having the right things in place.
Sure.
You're doing a good job.
Yep, absolutely.
Next time.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
Now the rodeo update.
Now the rodeo update. Okay, so this is up for discussion a little bit. I figured it would be. So here's a little update on the progress we've had. For those of you that are new to PTED, we did approve in the April meeting to go forward with a list of 3-4 dates that Ricardo is an individual that came to us wanting to have a Hispanic themed rodeo at the park. And this was about, I'd say he came to me about mid-March. And now we've since kind of have an up-to-date special event policy, which is very big for our park. This policy kind of goes along with the permit. So there's kind of 2 different things that we'll have like nonprofit rates. So if the Whitehall 6th grade campout, that's a special event. So they would, kind of the terms and our special event for a nonprofit are, if you want to do something as a nonprofit at the park, you kind of have to help out the park in some type of way. But we're not going to charge you like we have in the past.
we haven't charged anybody in the past like that, and I kind of wanted to continue with that because there's some cool traditions. So like something like the Whitehall camp out, they would have to then just talk to me, how are you gonna assist the park? And I think it'll be good for everybody. But with Ricardo's commercial rate, he kind of has to follow some more specific things to a T. If you want a copy of that special event contract, I can just send it out after the meeting. I think
That'd be
that's
a
the
great
best
idea.
way.
Perfect.
So we have a policy and a permit kind of in place. Ricardo has it, and his two dates that he's now kind of wanting to do are July 20th and August 1st. So he's kind of has to get on it a little bit here. He's got about 10 days to get us an updated permit and policy. So I will send that out after the meeting here, so you guys all have a copy of that on file.
Wonderful.
And then,
Anything else on the rodeo?
so he just has those, that's kind of where we're at right now. We've got some new potential dates. But yeah, we're just kind of continuing to communicate with other counties, because this may be a liability for us. So we kind of have to see what other counties
Make
have
sure
done.
you got it, yes.
And everything I've seen, we need to have everything on that permit squared away.
Perfect. Okay.
Yep.
And then, meeting 19, meeting dates discussion. Is there any discussion on that?
So this was put on partially because, just to bring up the idea of sticking on a consistent schedule. And it's traditionally been, at least since I've been here, first Tuesday of the month, 8:30 a.m. And I know there's people that plan around that. Staff, of course, were flexible, but it's more the committee members, so.
So does that work for everybody?
Oh, yeah, I did, I saw it, I was thinking your best.
Is that the best for you guys?
Just kind of keep the calendar clear.
Always been that day.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
So
And
that'll
then
be Tuesday, July 2nd, correct?
Tuesday, July 2nd is right into the next.
And then back at 8:30?
And back at 8:30. Okay. Future agenda items. Is it Strum pickleball courts?
I can give a brief.
Yeah.
Okay.
Valerie Simonson, did she talk to you?
I called her today.
Okay, good.
I had a conversation with Valerie, and I worked with Julie Booth out of Eau Claire, who just recently retired after 30 years of working in recreation for the city. So she has an interest in this as well, which is a good contact. So I'll have a conversation with Julie and get her thoughts as well. But did have a conversation with Valerie. She had asked about the CapEx funds, and I said we haven't prioritized those yet, and kind of told her,
She
kind
asked
of the
about those
process.
because I told her
Yep.
about them when she called.
So kind of told her, we might have to look into other funding resources, and she said there's about 10K, the Strum would pitch in 20, but there's 10K, that's needed to kind of be looked into, if they want those pickleball courts there.
Well, and
So-
she, if I can just add a little bit, the purpose of what they're, behind Valerie, she's a retired nurse, I think. Yeah, she's a retired nurse, and she's focusing on getting people moving again. They did apply for a big grant, and they didn't get it, because grants are so competitive. But they have the place for the courts, they have everything in place, they just need some more funding. And her focus is getting older people moving and getting people interested and out, and it's a health kind of related thing.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool for Strum. Lake Hallie just got some, where I'm commuting from right now, Lake Hallie just got some really cool courts that were fundraised for a lot. Marquardt Motors, I think, and Sen Blacktop did a lot of the helping out with funds. But I
Great.
told Strum, hey, kind of look at that, and who are your local partners?
Okay, so we'll talk about that again at the future, as a future agenda item, right?
Can it be next month?
Sure.
Sure.
Before winter, when you don't play pickleball?
Yeah.
All right, and we already talked about the next meeting date, July 2nd at 8:30 in the morning. And then we need a motion to adjourn. Oh,
And one last thing,
meeting.
there is a Friends of meeting, our first startup meeting. I sent out a meeting invite to, I think, PTED members, but it'll be Wednesday from 5 to 6.
We're going to be talking about how the Friends of group and the Water Trail Initiative kind of mesh together, as well as looking into a reservation system. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. I'm sorry you are always rushed
Okay,
at that
meeting
end.
adjourned. Thank you all very much.